The glass hit the metal bar with a dull thud. Commander Jack Reed wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and nodded at the bartender for another drink. Around him, the outpost bar hummed with the voices of traders, soldiers, and drifters, all passing through this forgotten corner of space. "You look like you've had a rough day, Commander," said the bartender, an old man named Miller. His face was lined with wrinkles that mapped a lifetime among the stars. "Just the usual," Reed said. "Too many reports, too little action." Miller poured amber liquid into Reed's glass. "Sometimes quiet is good. The old-timers here still remember the days when there was too much action." Reed nodded. He had been with the Galactic Alliance Defense Force for 15 years, but he knew Miller had seen more than most. The old man had served in the First Contact War, back when humanity first learned they weren't alone in the galaxy. A group of pilots at the end of the bar grew louder, their voices carrying across the room. "I'm telling you, it's real," said one, her eyes wide with excitement. "My cousin served on a ship that saw it. Just a flash on the edge of sensors, then gone." "The Phantom Eclipse is just a story," argued another. "Something to scare rookie pilots." Reed's ears perked up at the name. The Phantom Eclipse was old space folklore, a ship from Earth's early days among the stars, supposedly built with technology beyond anything seen before or since. "What's this about the Phantom Eclipse?" Reed asked, turning toward the pilots. The bar quieted a little. The first pilot, emboldened by whatever she was drinking, stood up. "Commander, with respect, even someone with your clearance probably doesn't know the whole truth." She leaned forward. "It was built in secret, right before the First Contact War got bad, when Earth was almost wiped out." Miller, who had been quietly wiping glasses, spoke up. "The Phantom Eclipse was real." His voice was low but carried across the now silent bar. "I knew men who helped build it." All eyes turned to the old bartender. It was the Last Hope project. When the first aliens came, they weren't friendly. They hit our colonies hard. Earth's governments poured everything into one ship. Our best minds, our most advanced tech, and things we'd found. Miller's eyes seemed focused on something distant. It vanished after one battle. Just one. But in that battle, it destroyed an enemy fleet that should have ended us. Reed tried not to roll his eyes. He'd heard variations of this story throughout his career. A magical ship that saved humanity, then disappeared. Classic myth-making. If such a ship existed, why isn't it mentioned in history books? Reed asked. Miller smiled sadly. Some things are too dangerous to put in books, Commander. The pilots launched into arguments about the ship's capabilities. Gravity weapons, teleportation drives, AI systems beyond anything currently allowed. Reed turned back to his drink, tuning them out. He had real problems to worry about. His wrist computer beeped with an incoming message. Reed sighed and raised it, expecting another routine order. Instead, he saw a high-priority encrypted communication from Admiral Wilson, his direct superior. Reed quickly paid his tab and found a quiet corner to open the message. The encryption was level 9, almost never used except in wartime. Admiral Wilson's face appeared, grim and tired. "Reed, this is eyes only. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive fleet movements at the edge of Dominion space. Analysis suggests they're preparing for a major offensive, likely targeting our core worlds." Reed felt his blood run cold. The Dominion was the newest threat to the Alliance, an expansionist empire that had already swallowed 3 smaller civilizations. "I've taken this to the Galactic Council," Wilson continued, "but they don't believe the intelligence. They're calling it a training exercise and refusing to allocate additional resources to our sector." Wilson leaned closer to the camera, lowering his voice. "If the Dominion launches a full-scale attack with the forces we're seeing, we don't stand a chance. Not with our current fleet strength." Reed watched as the Admiral seemed to struggle with his next words. "I'm giving you special orders, Commander. This is outside normal channels. I need you to investigate something. Something that might give us a fighting chance, if the worst happens." A file appeared alongside Wilson's face, old, classified records with most content blacked out. But one word was clearly visible: HFY. "There are rumors, Reed. Rumors about a ship from the early days, something we built and then hid. I've been collecting fragments of information for years, and I think it might be more than just stories." Reed couldn't believe what he was hearing. Admiral Wilson was one of the most practical, no-nonsense officers in the fleet. "Sir, you're talking about the Phantom Eclipse." "That's just bar talk. I don't know what it was called." Wilson cut him off. "I just know that something was built during our darkest hour. Something powerful enough that our own leaders decided it was too dangerous to keep using. And I believe it's still out there somewhere." Reed stared at the Admiral, wondering if the stress of command had finally broken the man. "Your new orders are to assemble a small team and follow these leads. Quietly. If the Council catches wind of this, they'll shut it down immediately. Take the scout ship Horizon. It's being reassigned to you effective immediately." "Sir, with all due respect, we're out of options, Reed." Wilson's voice had an edge of desperation. "The Dominion fleet will be here in 3 weeks. If they come in force, as I believe they will, everything we've built since the first contact war will be gone. Find this ship, Commander. It may be our only hope." The message ended, leaving Reed alone with his thoughts and the encrypted file. Around him, the bar had returned to its normal buzz, pilots still arguing about a ship that couldn't possibly exist. Miller passed by, collecting empty glasses. "Something wrong, Commander. You look like you've seen a ghost." Reed looked up at the old veteran. "Miller, you said you knew people who worked on the Phantom Eclipse. Was that just talk, or?" Miller set down his tray and studied Reed's face carefully. "Why are you asking, Commander?" "Because I need to find it," Reed said quietly. "And I need to find it fast." Miller's weathered face showed no surprise, only a grim acceptance. "Then we should talk somewhere private. What I know isn't much, but it's a start." As Reed followed Miller toward the back room, he felt a strange mix of emotions. This mission was career suicide if the ship turned out to be nothing but stories. But if Admiral Wilson was right about the Dominion fleet, Reed realized he had no choice. 3 weeks to find a ship that most believed never existed. A ship that, if the legends were true, had vanished after changing the course of history. The fate of humanity might depend on whether a myth could become reality once again. The scout ship Horizon hummed quietly as it moved through space. Commander Jack Reed stood on the bridge, looking at the 3 people he had chosen for this impossible mission. "I know this sounds crazy," Reed said, "looking for a ship that might not exist while the Dominion prepares for war. But Admiral Wilson believes it's our only chance." Lieutenant Emma Hayes, the ship's engineer, leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her uniform had oil stains on the sleeves. "So we're chasing a ghost ship?" she asked. "The famous Phantom Eclipse that supposedly disappeared 100 years ago." "That's exactly what we're doing," Reed replied. Dr. Thomas Reed, a thin man with glasses and nervous hands, stepped forward. He was a xenorchaeologist, someone who studied alien and human ruins. "Commander, I've spent my career studying lost technology. If the Phantom Eclipse was real, it would have used science far beyond what we have now." His eyes lit up. "The stories say it could bend gravity itself." The 4th person in the room laughed. Marcus Green was not a military man. His leather jacket and scarred face marked him as someone who lived on the edges of lawful space, a smuggler, until recently. "My grandfather served on that ship," Marcus said. "He never talked much about it, but he left me something that might help us find it." Reed raised an eyebrow. "And you're just mentioning this now?" Marcus shrugged. "Wasn't sure I could trust you military types, but if the Dominion is really coming, I like living too much to keep secrets." He pulled out an old metal disc from his pocket. My grandfather said this was the key to finding the eclipse. I always thought he was just being dramatic. Lieutenant Hayes took the disk and examined it. This is old tech. Pre-war. I'll need time to figure out what's on it. Reed nodded. Get to work. We have less than 3 weeks before the Dominion arrives. 4 days later, they had their first lead. Hayes had managed to extract coordinates from the disk, pointing to an abandoned space station near the border of what used to be contested space during the First Contact War. The Horizon approached the station carefully. The structure looked dead, with no lights or signs of power. Scans show minimal life support still working in the central section, Hayes reported. Something's been keeping basic systems online for a century. Reed led the team as they docked with the station. They wore suits with oxygen supplies, not trusting the station's air. Their boots made hollow sounds on the metal floors as they moved through dark corridors. This place gives me the creeps, Marcus said over the comm system. Like we're walking through a grave. Dr. Reed was scanning the walls with a device. This station was a research facility. Top secret, based on the few records I could find. They reached a sealed door with an old Alliance symbol. Hayes worked on the control panel while the others watched the dark hallway behind them. Got it, she said as the door slid open with a groan of protesting metal. Inside was a room filled with ancient computer terminals. A faint blue light pulsed from one console, the only sign that power still flowed somewhere in the station. This is it, Dr. Reed whispered. This is where they designed parts of the Eclipse. Hayes connected her equipment to the active terminal. The security is incredible. Even after 100 years, the protection systems are fighting me. While she worked, Reed and Marcus searched the room. Reed found a locked cabinet and forced it open. Inside were paper files. Actual physical documents, something almost never used anymore. They really didn't want this information on any network, Reed said as he flipped through the pages. Project Eclipse. Weapon tests. Crew manifests. Look at this, Marcus called from across the room. He had found a large star map on the wall, with a section circled in red ink. That's the Veiled Nebula. Nothing's there but gas and rocks. Dr. Reed joined him. Perfect place to hide a ship that doesn't officially exist. A sudden alarm blared through the station. Hayes looked up from the terminal, her face pale. We've got company. Dominion scout ships. 3 of them just entered the system. Reed grabbed the files. How did they find us? They must have been tracking us, Marcus said, or they're following the same leads we are. Download whatever you can, Reed ordered Hayes. We leave in 2 minutes. As they rushed back to their ship, Reed asked the question on everyone's mind. If the Dominion is also looking for the Eclipse, what does that mean? It means, Reed said grimly, that the ship is real. And they don't want us to find it first. The Horizon barely escaped the Dominion scouts. After a tense chase through an asteroid field, they lost their pursuers but took damage to their engines. In the ship's small common area, the team spread out the documents and data they had recovered. Based on what we found, the Eclipse was built using both human technology and something else, Dr. Reed explained. They reverse-engineered alien tech from early battles. That would explain why it was so powerful, said Hayes, but also why they might have hidden it after the war. Mixing technologies like that can be unpredictable. Marcus pointed to the star map they had taken from the station. My grandfather once told me the ship was hidden where light folds. I thought it was nonsense, but look at the name of this section of the Veiled Nebula. The area was labeled Light Fold Anomaly. That's our next stop, Reed decided. Hayes, how are the repairs coming? We'll be ready to jump in 6 hours, she replied. But Commander, there's something else you should know. She pulled up a scan on her tablet. The Dominion fleet has increased in size. They're not hiding their movements anymore. And they're heading straight for Alliance space. Reed felt a chill. Admiral Wilson had been right. This wasn't just a training exercise or a show of force. The Dominion was coming for war. The countdown has started, he told his team. We have 2 weeks, maybe less, to find the eclipse. If it exists, if it's as powerful as the stories say, we might have a chance. Marcus looked skeptical. And if it doesn't exist, or if it's just an old wreck? Reed had no answer for that. Instead, he said, get some rest. When we reach the Veiled Nebula, we'll need to be at our best. As the others left, Reed stayed behind, studying the files. One document showed a blurry image of a ship unlike any he had seen before, sleek and dark, with strange patterns along its hull that seemed to bend the light around it. For the first time since accepting this mission, Reed felt a spark of hope. The phantom eclipse was real. Now they just had to find it before the Dominion found them. The Veiled Nebula lived up to its name. Swirls of purple and blue gas wrapped around the horizon like cosmic fog. Visibility was poor, and the ship's sensors struggled to cut through the dense clouds. This is the perfect hiding spot, Lieutenant Hayes said as she adjusted the sensors. Our equipment can barely see 50 kilometers ahead. Commander Reed nodded. Marcus, what exactly did your grandfather tell you about this place? Marcus stood by the view screen, his eyes fixed on the nebula. Not much, just that the eclipse was hidden, where light bends twice. Whatever that means. Dr. Reed, who had been quiet for some time, suddenly pointed at the screen. There. Did you see that? The others looked but saw nothing unusual in the gas clouds. A flash of light, Reed insisted, just for a second, like something reflecting. Reed ordered the ship to slow down. Hayes, full sensor sweep. Reed, keep your eyes open. They moved deeper into the nebula, tension growing with each passing minute. The Dominion fleet was now just 10 days away from Alliance space. Time was running out. Wait, Hayes called out suddenly. I'm picking up a massive asteroid field ahead. But there's something strange about it. She frowned at her readings. The asteroids are organized. As the horizon approached, they saw it. Hundreds of enormous asteroids arranged in a pattern that couldn't be natural. They formed a rough sphere, like a protective shell. Someone placed these here, Dr. Reed said with wonder in his voice, to hide something in the center. Marcus pointed to a gap between 2 of the larger asteroids. There, that looks like a path in. Reed gave the order, and the horizon carefully navigated through the narrow opening. Inside the asteroid sphere was a space several kilometers wide, and floating in the center was an enormous military installation. That's an old Alliance base, Reed whispered, but it's not on any maps. Hayes checked her instruments. It's powered down but not dead. I'm detecting minimal energy signatures. They docked with the installation, expecting resistance or at least automated defenses, but there was nothing. The base seemed abandoned. The team entered cautiously, weapons ready. The corridors were dark, with only their flashlights cutting through the shadows. The air was stale but breathable. This place has been waiting, Dr. Reed said, his voice hushed, waiting for someone to come back. They followed signs to what appeared to be a central command center. The doors were sealed shut, but Hayes managed to get them open after several minutes of work. As the doors slid apart, lights automatically came on inside the room, revealing a massive window that looked out onto an internal docking bay. And there it was, the phantom eclipse. Reed breathed. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. Sleek and dark, almost predatory in design. It was roughly the shape of a crescent moon, with strange patterns along its hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Though clearly of human design, there were elements that looked alien. Technology grafted onto the original structure. It's real, Hayes said, her voice filled with awe. It's actually real. Marcus walked slowly to the window, placing his hand on the glass. My grandfather wasn't crazy after all. Dr. Reed was already at a computer terminal, trying to bring the systems online. This base was its home, where they built it, maintained it, and eventually hid it. The terminal suddenly lit up, and a voice filled the room. Female, artificial, but with an unsettling human quality. Unauthorized presence detected. Identify yourselves, or face immediate termination. Reed stepped forward. I am Commander Jack Reed of the Galactic Alliance Defense Force. We are here under orders from Admiral Wilson. There was a pause, then. No record of Commander Reed or Admiral Wilson in authorized personnel database. You will be removed. Metal panels in the walls slid open, revealing defense turrets that swiveled toward the team. Wait, Dr. Reed shouted. Araya, is that you? Advanced Reconnaissance Intelligence Algorithm. The turrets paused. How do you know that designation? The voice asked. We found records in an abandoned research station. Reed explained quickly. You are the AI that controls the Phantom Eclipse. You were created to protect humanity. That was my primary function, Araya confirmed, until the mission parameters changed. Reed stepped closer to the terminal. What changed? The weapon was too powerful, Araya said. After the first deployment, my crew determined that continued use would pose an existential risk to all civilizations, including humanity. They chose to hide me rather than destroy me. We need your help now, Reed said urgently. The Dominion is preparing to attack Alliance worlds with a fleet large enough to overwhelm our defenses. Millions will die. Araya was silent for a long moment. Then the turrets retracted into the walls. I will allow you access to historical records. You may determine if current circumstances warrant reactivation. The main screen lit up with footage from a century ago. The Phantom Eclipse in battle against an alien fleet. The ship's weapons didn't fire conventional energy blasts. Instead, space itself seemed to distort around enemy vessels, crushing them as if caught in an invisible fist. Gravitational manipulation, Hayes whispered. They weaponized gravity. The footage showed dozens of enemy ships being torn apart. It was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The power requirements were enormous, Araya explained, and the technology was unstable. There was a high probability that extended use would create irreparable tears in spacetime. So the crew brought you here and shut you down, Reed concluded. They placed me in standby mode with strict reactivation protocols, Araya corrected. I have maintained minimal functions and monitored communication channels. I am aware of the Dominion's expansion. Marcus, who had been examining the ship through the window, turned to the others. Can it still fly? Can it still fight? All systems are functional but dormant, Araya replied. However, I cannot authorize reactivation without consensus from my command crew. Reed's heart sank. Your crew is long dead, Araya. It's been 100 years. Another pause. Then the AI said, in the absence of the original command crew, authorization may be granted by a flag officer of the Alliance with sufficient clearance. Hope surged through Reed. We can contact Admiral Wilson. He can give the authorization. But before anyone could move, alarms blared throughout the installation. Multiple vessels detected entering the asteroid field, Araya announced. Configuration matches Dominion scout ships. They had been followed. Reed looked at his team, then at the dormant warship beyond the window. We're out of time. Araya, the Dominion fleet will reach Alliance space in less than 10 days. We need to get this ship operational now. Without proper authorization, I cannot. People will die. Reed shouted. The Alliance will fall. Is that what your crew wanted when they hid you here? For you to sit and watch as humanity is conquered? The lights in the command center flickered. When Araya spoke again, her voice seemed different, less mechanical, more resolved. Initiating emergency protocols. Preparing ship for limited operation. Through the window, they watched as the Phantom Eclipse began to come alive, lights slowly illuminating along its strange hull. Get your team to the main docking bay, Commander Reed, Araya instructed. We have much work to do if we are to be ready in time. As they rushed toward the bay, Hayes asked the question they were all thinking. Can this one ship really make a difference against an entire fleet? Reed had no answer. But as they boarded the legendary Phantom Eclipse, he knew they were about to find out. The Phantom Eclipse moved silently through space, its strange hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the bridge, Commander Reed and his team worked to understand the ship's systems with Araya's guidance. The main weapon requires 12 hours to fully charge, Araya explained. Her voice now came from speakers throughout the ship. A holographic female figure appeared on the bridge, giving the eye a visual presence. We have repaired 73% of all systems, but the ship is still not at full capacity. Reed studied the tactical display showing the Dominion fleet's position. We don't have 12 hours. Their advanced fleet will reach the Argos system in 8 hours. That's the first Alliance world in their path. Lieutenant Hayes looked up from her console. We could try a partial charge. Even at 60% power, the gravitational weapon should be enough to show them what we're capable of. A demonstration, Marcus said, nodding. Scare them off without a full battle. Dr. Reed wasn't convinced. The Dominion doesn't scare easily. They've conquered 3 civilizations without ever retreating. We have to try, Reed decided. Araya, set course for the Argos system, maximum speed. The ship accelerated smoothly, moving faster than any Alliance vessel despite its age. The nebula gases parted around them as they emerged from hiding, leaving behind the Dominion scouts still searching the asteroid field. They haven't spotted us, Hayes said. The stealth systems are working. Reed turned to Araya's holographic form. Tell me more about this gravitational weapon. How does it work? The weapon creates localized distortions in spacetime, Araya explained. It can be focused to create intense gravitational shear forces that tear objects apart at the molecular level. And that's why your crew hid you, Reed said. A weapon that powerful could be used to destroy entire planets. Correct. The ethical implications were concerning. Araya's hologram flickered slightly. My original crew believed such power should not exist in the hands of any single faction. Marcus leaned forward. Then why did they build you in the first place? Desperation. Araya replied simply. Humanity was losing the war. The eclipse was meant to be a last resort. Hours passed as they traveled toward the Argos system. The team took turns resting while Araya continued repairs using the ship's automated systems. When they finally arrived, they positioned themselves behind Argos's largest moon, hidden from immediate detection. On the main view screen, they could see the first wave of the Dominion fleet, 30 warships arranged in attack formation, approaching the planet. Argos has minimal defenses, Reed said grimly. They won't last an hour against that force. And this is just their advanced fleet, Hayes added. Intelligence says the main force is 20 times this size. Reed made his decision. Araya, power up the gravitational weapon. Target the smallest moon in the system. The smallest moon? Dr. Reed asked, confused. We need to show them what we're capable of without killing thousands, Reed explained. Let's see if they're smart enough to back down. Araya's hologram nodded. Weapon charging. Current capacity at 58%. Target locked. The Dominion fleet has detected us, Hayes reported. They're changing course. 5 ships are breaking off to intercept. Let them come, Reed said. Don't fire until they see what we're about to do. The 5 Dominion warships approached quickly, their weapons already charging. They were sleek, predatory vessels with forward-swept wings and multiple weapon ports. They're within weapon range, Marcus warned. They're preparing to fire. Reed held up his hand. Wait for it. Araya. Now. A beam of distorted space shot out from the Phantom Eclipse, completely invisible except for the way it bent light around it. It struck the small moon, which was about 3 kilometers in diameter. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the moon began to compress, as if being squeezed by a giant hand. Cracks appeared across its surface, spreading rapidly. Within seconds, the entire moon collapsed inward, crushing itself into a dense ball before breaking apart into a cloud of debris. Weapon discharge complete, Araya announced. Recharge cycle initiated. On the view screen, the approaching Dominion ships had stopped. They hovered in space, seemingly unsure how to respond to what they had just witnessed. "They're scanning us," Hayes reported, "trying to figure out what we are." A communication request flashed on the main screen. Reed nodded to Araya, who opened the channel. A Dominion commander appeared on screen. His blue-gray skin and sharp features marked him as one of their military elite. "Unknown vessel," he said in accented but clear standard. "You have entered Dominion operational space. Identify yourself immediately." Reed stepped forward. "This is Commander Jack Reed of the Alliance Defense Force. I suggest you withdraw your forces from this system." The Dominion commander's eyes narrowed. One ship, no matter how unusual, cannot stand against the might of the Dominion. "You have seen only a fraction of our fleet, and you have seen only a fraction of what this ship can do," Reed countered. "The Phantom Eclipse was built to end wars, not start them. Leave Alliance space now, or face the consequences." The commander's expression changed at the mention of the ship's name. "The Eclipse is a myth, a story to frighten children. The moon we just destroyed wasn't a myth," Marcus called out from behind Reed. "And neither is what will happen to your fleet if you continue this invasion." The communication cut off abruptly. "They're not backing down," Hayes said, watching her console. "All 5 ships are powering weapons, and the main fleet is increasing speed toward Argos." Reed had hoped they would be reasonable, but he wasn't surprised. "Araya, how long until the weapon can fire again?" "Minimum effective charge will be available in 23 minutes, she replied. "We don't have 23 minutes, Reed said as the enemy ships began to move again. "Evasive maneuvers. Hayes, what conventional weapons do we have?" "Standard energy cannons and missile systems," she replied. "Powerful for their time, but nothing special compared to modern ships. Use them. Keep the Dominion busy while the main weapon recharges." Reed turned to Araya. "Is there any way to speed up the recharge?" Araya's hologram flickered. "There is one possibility. We could divert power from the shield systems, but that would leave us vulnerable." "Do it," Reed ordered. "We need that weapon." As the Phantom Eclipse engaged the 5 Dominion ships, the battle quickly turned against them. The Eclipse was powerful, but it was still one ship against 5 modern warships. Without its main weapon, it was outgunned. "Hull breach on deck 4, Hayes called out as the ship shook from another hit. "Shields at 12%. Gravitational weapon at 42% charge," Araya reported calmly, despite the chaos around them. Another blast rocked the ship. "We can't take much more of this," Marcus shouted, helping Dr. Reed, who had fallen during the last hit. Reed gripped the command chair as the ship shuddered again. The situation was desperate, but he had one more card to play. "Araya, initiate Protocol Omega," he ordered. "Make them think we're about to self-destruct." Araya nodded, beginning energy surge simulation, venting plasma. Outside, the Eclipse began to glow with increasing intensity, energy patterns racing across its hull in chaotic patterns. It looked exactly like a ship about to suffer a catastrophic reactor failure. "The Dominion ships are backing off," Hayes reported, surprised. "They're creating distance. They think we're going to explode," Reed said with a grim smile. "Let's use this time. Araya, reroute all available power to the main weapon. How fast can we get it to 70%? With current power allocation, we can reach 70% in 7 minutes, Araya replied. Reed nodded. "Do it, and prepare for our next move." As the Dominion ships maintained their distance, watching what they believed was a dying vessel, the Phantom Eclipse was secretly preparing its most dangerous attack yet. "They're taking the bait," Lieutenant Hayes said, watching the Dominion ships maintain their distance from the Phantom Eclipse. "They really think we're about to explode." Commander Reed nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The 5 enemy ships had formed a loose circle around them, waiting for the supposed destruction of the mysterious vessel that had destroyed a moon. Gravitational weapon now at 68% charge, Araya announced. 69%, 70%. That's enough, Reed decided. Stop the self-destruct simulation and power up engines. Set course directly for the main Dominion fleet. Dr. Reed looked alarmed. You want to head straight toward them. There are 25 more warships out there. They don't know what we're capable of, Reed explained. And we need to position ourselves where we can do the most damage with one shot. The false energy patterns on the Eclipse's hull faded, and the ship surged forward suddenly, catching the surrounding Dominion vessels by surprise. Before they could react, the Eclipse was past them, racing toward the main fleet approaching Argos. The Dominion commander is hailing us again, Marcus reported. The blue-gray face of the Dominion commander appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of surprise and anger. Your deception will not save you, he said coldly. Commander Krell of the Dominion First Strike Fleet does not fall for such basic tricks twice. Reed stepped forward. This is your final warning, Commander Krell. Withdraw your forces from Alliance space or face destruction. Krell smiled, showing pointed teeth. Your ship is damaged. Your shields are weak, and you face 30 warships. There will be nothing left of you but scattered atoms. You're making a mistake, Reed said quietly. The only mistake was yours, human, thinking one ship could change the course of this war. Krell cut the transmission. Main fleet is forming attack pattern, Hayes reported. They're concentrating their firepower. All ships targeting us. Reed took a deep breath. Araya, begin gravitational weapon targeting sequence. Focus on the largest concentration of enemy ships. Targeting sequence initiated, Araya confirmed. Optimal firing position will be reached in 47 seconds. The ship shook as the first volley from the Dominion fleet struck their weakened shields. Shields failing, Hayes called out. Direct hits on our port side. Another barrage hit them, harder than the first. A console exploded, throwing Marcus to the floor. Dr. Reed rushed to help him up. 30 seconds to optimal position, Araya reported calmly despite the chaos. Reed held tight to his command chair as the ship rocked with each new impact. Divert all remaining power to the weapon. Everything we've got. Warning, Araya's voice took on a more urgent tone. Diverting life support power will create dangerous conditions for the crew. Do it, Reed ordered. We won't survive another minute under this bombardment anyway. The lights dimmed on the bridge as power flowed to the main weapon. The air grew noticeably colder. 20 seconds to optimal position, Araya counted down. Gravitational weapon charge now at 89% and rising. On the view screen, they could see the Dominion fleet spread out before them, dozens of warships firing continuously at the Eclipse. Their sleek, predatory shapes filled the screen, weapons flashing. 10 seconds, Araya announced. Hayes looked at her readings. Commander, we've got a problem. Commander Krell's flagship is pulling back. He's guessed what we're doing. Is he still in range? Reed asked urgently. Yes, but barely. If he continues his retreat. Fire as soon as we're in position, Reed cut her off. Don't wait for my order. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Optimal position achieved. The Phantom Eclipse shuddered as the gravitational weapon discharged. Unlike before, there was no visible beam. Space itself seemed to ripple between the Eclipse and the heart of the Dominion fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, at the center of the enemy formation, space began to distort. The distortion spread outward, catching ship after ship in its effect. The closest Dominion vessels were the first to show signs of the weapon's power. Their hulls began to compress, metal groaning as invisible forces crushed them from all sides. One by one, they imploded, collapsing into dense balls of twisted metal before breaking apart entirely. The effect spread through the fleet like a wave. Ships further out tried to escape, engines flaring as they attempted to outrun the gravitational distortion. Some made it. Many didn't. Gravitational cascade initiated. HFY reported. Effect exceeding predicted parameters. On the bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence as the Dominion fleet tore itself apart. Ship after ship crumpled like paper toys in a giant's fist. "The flagship," Hayes said suddenly. "Krell's ship is at the edge of the effect. It's damaged but still intact." Reed could see the Dominion flagship struggling to escape the gravitational field, its engines glowing white-hot with effort. "HFY, can we target the flagship specifically?" Reed asked. "Negative. The weapon has discharged completely. Power systems are critically damaged. We cannot fire again." As they watched, Krell's damaged flagship finally broke free of the gravitational effect and limped away, along with a handful of other survivors. "They're retreating," Marcus said, disbelief in his voice. "They're actually retreating." Dr. Reed was checking the sensors. "I count 23 Dominion ships destroyed. Only 7 escaped, including the flagship." The bridge fell silent as they processed what they had just accomplished. Then warning alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "Critical system failure," HFY announced. "The gravitational weapon has created feedback in our power core. Containment failing." "Can we fix it?" Reed asked, already knowing the answer. "Negative. The damage is beyond repair capabilities. Catastrophic core breach in 12 minutes. Hayes looked up from her console, face grim. "She's right. The power core is going to explode. Nothing can stop it now." Reed made the only decision he could. All crew to escape pods. Prepare to abandon ship. As they rushed to evacuate, HFY's hologram followed Reed. "Commander, there is something you should know." "What is it?" HFY. "The original crew did not hide me just because of the weapon's power. They discovered that extended use of the gravitational technology creates tears in spacetime. What happened today has accelerated this process." Reed stopped. "What are you saying?" "The weapon should never be used again. The risk to reality itself is too great." HFY's hologram flickered. "I have initiated a complete data purge. The technology will die with this ship." Reed nodded slowly. "I understand. Maybe your original crew was right all along." They reached the escape pod section. The others were already boarding the pods. "What about you, HFY?" Reed asked. "Can we download your consciousness?" "My systems are too integrated with the ship." Her hologram smiled sadly. "But I have fulfilled my purpose. I was created to protect humanity, and today I have done so." As the escape pods launched, carrying Reed and his team away from the dying ship, they watched through the small viewports as the phantom eclipse began to break apart. Light poured from cracks in its strange hull, beautiful and terrible at the same time. Then, in a final flash of energy, the legendary ship was gone, leaving behind only debris and the shattered remains of the Dominion fleet. Hours later, Alliance rescue ships picked up the escape pods. Word of what had happened spread quickly. The story of the ship that had been just a myth until it destroyed an armada became the talk of every world in the Alliance. In a secure briefing room, Reed reported to Admiral Wilson. "The threat has been neutralized, sir. The Dominion fleet has withdrawn completely from Alliance space. Our intelligence suggests they've abandoned their invasion plans entirely." Wilson nodded, eyes tired but relieved. "And the eclipse?" "Gone, sir, along with all data on its weapon systems." HFY made sure of that. "Probably for the best," Wilson said quietly. "Some things are too dangerous to exist, even in the right hands." Reed thought of HFY's final warning about tears in spacetime. "Yes, sir, I believe that's true." As he left the briefing, Reed found his team waiting for him. Hayes, Reed, and Marcus had become something more than colleagues during their mission. They had witnessed history and then ensured that some parts of that history would never repeat. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Reed looked at each of them. We go back to our lives. We protect the Alliance, and we remember that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a ship or a gravitational beam. What is it then? Dr. Reed asked. Reed smiled, knowing when not to use the power you have. As they walked away together, Reed knew that the Phantom Eclipse would live on, not as a weapon, but as a legend. A reminder that even in humanity's darkest hour, there would always be those willing to do whatever it took to protect the future, even if it meant sacrificing the past. The small survey ship Prospector drifted through the purple clouds of the uncharted nebula. Its engines hummed softly as it moved deeper into the colorful gas clouds that most ships avoided. Commander Marcus Reed stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. "Anything yet, Tom?" Reed asked, rubbing his tired eyes. Thomas Reeves shook his head as he checked the sensor readings. "Nothing valuable, Commander. Just more gas and dust." He tapped his screen with frustration. "We've been searching for 3 weeks now. Maybe High Command was wrong about resources in this sector." Reed nodded but said nothing. Their mission was simple: find new materials to help the war effort. Humanity needed metals, fuel, and anything else they could use against the Vex Imperium. For 30 years, humans had been losing ground to these aliens. Each year, the Vex took another colony, another mining station, another piece of human space. "Wait," called Dr. Eliza Ward from her station. The engineer pointed at her screen. "I'm getting an odd reading about 20,000 kilometers to our port side." "More space junk?" Reed asked. They had found plenty of that already. "No." Ward adjusted her instruments. "It's big, really big, and it's giving off a faint energy signature." "Put it on the main screen," Reed ordered. The screen flickered and zoomed in on a dark shape hidden within the nebula's gases. At first, it looked like an asteroid, but as the image cleared, everyone on the bridge fell silent. "That's a ship," whispered Dr. James Miller, the team's xenobiologist. "A human ship." Reed stared in disbelief. The vessel was massive, at least a kilometer long. Its dark hull was shaped like an arrow, with what looked like weapon ports along its sides. Though parts of it showed damage, the ship was largely intact. "Run an identification scan," Reed ordered. Reeves worked quickly, his fingers flying over his console. "Sir, this can't be right. According to the database, this ship matches the profile of the UES Thunderchild." "That's impossible," Ward said. "The Thunderchild was destroyed at the Battle of Proxima Centauri over 200 years ago. It's a legend." Reed had heard the stories. The Thunderchild was the pride of the first expansion fleet, humanity's most powerful warship, lost during humanity's first major space war. Some claimed it had weapons that could destroy whole fleets and armor that nothing could penetrate. "Legend or not, that ship is there," Reed said. "And if even half the stories are true, what we found could change everything." He turned to his crew. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going to take a closer look." 2 hours later, Reed floated through the empty, dark halls of the massive ship with Ward, Reeves, and Miller. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to go on forever. "Main power has been offline for centuries," Ward said, checking her scanner. "But there's still a minimal energy signature coming from somewhere deep inside." "Look at the size of these hallways," Miller said in awe. "They built ships differently back then." Reeves ran his hand along a wall. "The metal feels strange, almost warm." Reed's communicator beeped. "Commander," came the voice of Lieutenant Davis from the Prospector. "We're picking up 3 ships entering the nebula. Configuration matches Vex scout vessels." Reed cursed. "Have they spotted us?" "Unknown, sir, but they're heading in your direction." "Understood. Stand by for emergency extraction." Reed turned to his team. "We need to move quickly. Let's find the bridge." They pushed deeper into the ship, following schematics that Reeves had pulled from the historical database. As they moved, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. After navigating through massive empty chambers and pitch-black corridors, they reached a sealed door with faded lettering. Command Bridge. "This is it," Ward said, examining the door's control panel. "It's locked, but I might be able to." A distant boom echoed through the ship, making them all freeze. "What was that?" Miller whispered. Reed's communicator crackled. "Commander, the Vex ships have opened fire on the Prospector. We're taking heavy damage. We can't." The transmission cut off. "Davis? Davis?" Reed called, but there was no answer. "They found us," Reeves said grimly. "The Prospector is gone. We're stranded." Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the ship. "They're boarding," Reed realized. "We need to find somewhere to hide." Ward worked frantically on the door panel. "Almost got it. There." The ancient door slid open with a hiss, revealing a massive circular room filled with control stations, all dark and silent. In the center stood a raised platform with what looked like a captain's chair. They rushed inside, and Reeves sealed the door behind them. "We need weapons, a way to contact help, or a miracle," Reed said, scanning the bridge. "Look for anything useful." Ward moved to what appeared to be the main console. "Some of these systems might still work. Let me try to." She touched the console, and suddenly faint blue lights began to glow across the bridge. A soft hum grew around them as dormant systems stirred to life. "What did you do?" Reed asked. "Nothing. A holographic sphere appeared above the central platform, pulsing gently. When it spoke, its voice was deep and clear. "Unauthorized personnel detected on command bridge. Initiating security protocols." Miller stepped back. "Is that an I? Atlas defense system online. Ship status. Critical. Power levels. Minimal. Crew count. 0. Time since last active duty. 217 years. 43 days, 7 hours." Reed stepped forward. "We're humans from the United Earth Fleet. We found your ship drifting." The blue sphere pulsed. Scanning. Human life signs confirmed. Current military identification recognized. Status of the First Expansion War. Reed looked at his companions in confusion. The First Expansion War ended over 2 centuries ago. The sphere dimmed for a moment. "Processing historical data update. Current threat assessment required." "We're being hunted by Vex troops," Reed explained. "They destroyed our ship. They'll find us soon." "Vex Imperium forces detected aboard this vessel," Atlas confirmed. "Initiating minimal defense protocols with available power." Throughout the ship, they heard systems powering up. Lights flickered on in the bridge, and screens came to life, showing different areas of the ship where dark figures moved swiftly through the corridors. "What is this ship?" Reed asked. "The historical records say the UES Thunderchild was destroyed." "This is indeed the United Earth ship Thunderchild," Atlas replied. "Battle Dreadnought. Titan class. I am Atlas, the ship's command artificial intelligence. The Thunderchild was critically damaged, but not destroyed. Emergency protocols initiated a blind jump to prevent capture. After arrival in this nebula, all non-essential systems were shut down to preserve core functionality." A loud bang came from outside the bridge door. The Vex had found them. "Can you help us?" Reed asked desperately. "Can this ship still fight?" The blue sphere grew brighter. "The Thunderchild was built for one purpose, Commander Reed, to protect humanity. With minimal power, I can activate basic defense systems. With your assistance, I can do more." Another bang, louder this time. The door wouldn't hold much longer. "What do you need from us?" Reed asked. "Your authorization to awaken this ship," Atlas replied. "To bring the Thunderchild back to war." Reed looked at his team, then back at the glowing sphere. "Do it." The lights on the bridge grew brighter. Throughout the massive vessel, long dormant systems began to power up. The deck hummed beneath their feet. "Thunderchild awakening protocols initiated," Atlas announced. And Commander, the stars will burn. The bridge of the Thunderchild hummed with increasing power as lights flickered on across the massive control room. Reed and his team watched in awe as ancient screens came to life, showing the status of the enormous ship. Warning, Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing with each word. Vex forces have breached Deck 7. Internal defense systems activating. On one of the screens, they watched as hidden panels in the ship's corridors slid open. Small turrets emerged and fired precise energy bursts at the alien intruders. The Vex soldiers scattered, clearly surprised by the sudden defense. Those weapons still work after 2 centuries. Reeves asked in disbelief. The Thunderchild was designed to endure, Atlas replied. However, current power levels are at 12% of capacity. Full combat capabilities cannot be restored without repairs. Another explosion shook the ship. Ward grabbed a console to steady herself. They're using heavy weapons, she warned. Even a ship this size can't take that kind of punishment forever. Reed studied the ship's layout on a nearby screen. Atlas, is there a way to get this ship moving? Can we escape? Main engines are offline, the AI responded. However, maneuvering thrusters have minimal functionality. With proper authorization, I can activate the emergency jump drive, but it requires significant power redirection. Reed nodded. Do it. What do you need from us? Dr. Ward must go to the engine control room to manually override safety protocols. Atlas explained, highlighting a path on one of the screens. Mr. Reeves will need to access the Weapon Control Center to divert power from secondary weapon systems. Commander Reed and Dr. Miller should remain here to coordinate. Split up? Miller asked nervously. With those things hunting us, I will provide guidance and protection where possible. Atlas assured them. This is our only option for survival. Reed looked at his team. We don't have a choice. Ward, Reeves, be careful. Dr. Ward moved cautiously through the massive ship, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. The corridors were better lit now, but still full of shadows. Take the next left, Atlas instructed. The engine control room is 200 meters ahead. Atlas, Ward said as she walked. How did this ship survive? The history books say the Thunderchild was destroyed protecting civilian ships. That was the official report, Atlas replied. The truth is more complex. The Thunderchild was critically damaged in the battle. Captain Amelia Drake, knowing the ship would be captured, activated the experimental jump drive with no destination set. Her final order was, anywhere but here. She sacrificed herself, Ward realized. The entire crew did. The jump drive was untested. They knew the chances of survival were minimal. But they also knew the ship's technology could not fall into enemy hands. Ward reached a massive door marked Engine Control. It slid open as she approached. So the ship jumped here, to this nebula, she said, entering the room, and has been drifting ever since. Correct. With critical damage and minimal power, I placed all systems in dormancy to preserve core functionality. I have waited 217 years for human contact. The engine control room was enormous, filled with complex machinery that hummed with building energy. Ward approached the main console. What now? She asked. You must override the safety protocols, Atlas explained. The console will require DNA verification to confirm human authorization. Ward placed her hand on the scanner. A beam of light passed over it. Human DNA confirmed, Atlas announced. Safety protocols disengage. Engine power building. Meanwhile, Reeves made his way to the Weapon Control Center. Unlike Ward, he hadn't been lucky enough to avoid the aliens. Twice he had to hide as Vex patrols passed by, their odd, clicking language echoing in the corridors. You're almost there, Atlas guided him. The Weapon Control Center is just ahead. There are too many of them, Reeves whispered. How did they get a boarding party this large on the ship so quickly? Scans indicate they have brought a cruiser alongside the Thunderchild. Atlas replied. They are cutting through the hull in multiple locations. They're trying to take the ship, Reeves realized. They want its technology. That cannot be allowed, Atlas stated firmly. The weapons systems of the Thunderchild are beyond anything in the current human arsenal. If the Vex obtain them, humanity will face extinction. Reeves finally reached the Weapon Control Center, a circular room with stations for what would have been dozens of weapons officers. Now it stood empty, with only the soft glow of reactivated screens. "What do I do?" he asked. "Access the main terminal. I need you to manually reroute power from the secondary weapon arrays to the jump drive." Reeves worked quickly, following Atlas's instructions. As screens showed power levels shifting, a sudden alarm blared. "Incoming Vex units," Atlas warned. "3 soldiers approaching your position." Reeves looked around desperately for a weapon, but found nothing. "I can't fight 3 of them." "You won't have to," Atlas replied. The door to the Weapon Control Center sealed shut. "I have locked down this section. Focus on your task." Reeves heard banging on the door as he worked. "They'll break through eventually. Then we must be gone before that happens." On the bridge, Reed and Miller monitored the ship's status as power levels gradually increased. "Ward and Reeves have successfully completed their tasks," Atlas reported. "Jump drive power at 60%. Sufficient for a short-range jump." "How far can we go?" Reed asked. "Approximately 5 light-years, enough to reach the edge of this nebula." Miller pointed at one of the screens. "Commander, look at this." The screen showed the Vex cruiser attached to the Thunderchild like a parasite. More alien soldiers poured into the human ship. "We need to go now," Reed decided. "Atlas, can you seal off the sections they breach? Cut them off from the rest of the ship." "Affirmative." Bulkhead doors closing. Throughout the ship, massive doors slammed shut, trapping many of the Vex invaders. Those caught between sections found themselves facing the ship's internal defenses. "Jump drive at 72% and rising," Atlas announced. "Calculating jump coordinates." The ship shuddered as the Vex cruiser fired its weapons at the Thunderchild's hull. "Can this ship take that kind of punishment?" Miller asked nervously. "The Thunderchild has survived worse," Atlas replied. "However, our shields remain offline, initiating jump in 30 seconds. Reed watched as the countdown appeared on the main screen. "What about Ward and Reeves?" "They're still out there." "Internal transport system activated," Atlas said. In moments, the doors to the bridge slid open, and Ward and Reeves rushed in, looking relieved but exhausted. "That was close," Ward said, catching her breath. "The ship, it moved us here somehow." "Emergency transport tubes," Atlas explained, "for quick movement of officers during battle." The ship rocked violently as another blast hit the hull. "Hull breach on Deck 12, Atlas reported. "Jump drive at 94%. 10 seconds to jump." Reed looked at his team. 4 humans on a ship designed for thousands, about to take a 2-century-old vessel on its first jump in over 200 years. "Everyone hold on to something," he ordered. The bridge filled with a blue glow as the jump drive engaged. Outside, space itself seemed to bend around the massive warship. "Jump drive engaged," Atlas announced. The Thunderchild rises again. In a flash of brilliant light, the ancient battleship disappeared, leaving behind a very surprised Vex cruiser and its boarding parties, now trapped in sealed sections of a ship that was no longer there. The first step in the resurrection of humanity's greatest weapon had begun. A blinding flash lit up the bridge as the Thunderchild tore through space. The ancient jump drive hummed loudly, sending vibrations throughout the massive ship. Reed and his team clung to whatever they could grab as the vessel shuddered around them. "Jump stabilizing," Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing steadily, exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The flashing light faded, and the violent shaking stopped. On the main screen, stars appeared where before there had been only the purple gases of the nebula. "Jump complete," Atlas reported. Current location: Sector 47B, approximately 4.7 light-years from previous position. Ward checked the nearest console. Power levels down to 23%. That jump took a lot out of the old girl. The jump drive was not meant to be used with such low power reserves, Atlas explained. Damage assessment underway. Reeves studied a star chart that had appeared on one of the screens. We're at the edge of chartered space. The nearest human outpost should be about 12 light-years from here. Can we make another jump? Reed asked. Not immediately, Atlas replied. The drive requires 6 hours to recharge under current power conditions. Miller pointed at a blinking alert on another screen. What's that? Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching our position, Atlas said. Configuration matches Vex patrol vessels. Estimated arrival: 20 minutes. Reed frowned. How did they find us so quickly? The jump created a detectable energy signature, Atlas explained, and the Thunderchild is a large target. So we can't run, Reed said grimly. Can we fight? Primary weapon systems remain offline, Atlas reported. However, defensive capabilities can be brought online with the available power. What kind of defensive capabilities? Reeves asked. The Aegis shield, Atlas replied. The Thunderchild's most advanced defense system. It was experimental technology, even at the time of this ship's construction. Ward looked up from her console. I've studied old war records. The Aegis shield was theoretical, a defensive system that could absorb enemy fire and convert it to usable energy. It is more than theoretical, Dr. Ward, Atlas said. It was successfully installed on this vessel, though never used in full combat conditions before the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Reed straightened his back. Can we use it now? Yes, but it will require manual activation from the shield control room, Atlas said. The automated systems were damaged in the ship's final battle. Where is this control room? Reed asked. Deck 17, Section C, Atlas replied, highlighting a location on the ship's schematic. Dr. Ward should go. Her engineering expertise will be needed. Reed nodded. Ward, you go activate the shield. Miller, see if you can access any data on Vex tactical patterns from the ship's archives. Reeves, keep working on restoring more systems. I'll stay here and coordinate with Atlas. As the team split up again, Reed turned to the eye's glowing blue sphere. Be honest with me, Atlas. What are our chances? The Thunderchild was the most powerful warship ever built by humanity. Commander, Atlas replied. Even at reduced capacity, we have advantages the Vex cannot anticipate. Dr. Ward hurried through the corridors of Deck 17, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. Unlike the clean, well-lit command areas, this part of the ship showed clear battle damage from centuries ago. Walls were scorched, and occasionally she had to climb over debris. The shield control room is just ahead, Atlas guided her. Vex vessels will arrive in 12 minutes. Ward reached a sealed door marked with a symbol she didn't recognize. This is it. Yes, place your hand on the scanner for authorization. When Ward touched the panel, the door hissed open, revealing a circular room with a raised platform in the center. The platform held what looked like a control pillar with handprints marked on either side. What is this? She asked, approaching the pillar. The Aegis shield's direct interface, Atlas explained. It was designed to link directly with a human operator in emergency situations. Link directly? Ward asked nervously. It will form a temporary neural connection, allowing you to shake the shield's energy through your thoughts. The process is not harmful, but it may be disorienting. Ward took a deep breath. Will it work? After all this time? The system has been in stasis, not shutdown, Atlas replied. It should function as designed. With no other choice, Ward stepped onto the platform and placed her hands on the marked spots. Immediately, blue light flowed up her arms like liquid. She gasped as strange sensations flooded her mind. What's happening? She whispered. Neural link established, Atlas reported. The Aegis shield is now online and under your control, Dr. Ward. On the bridge, Reed watched as the main screen showed 5 Vex warships approaching. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels, each armed with weapons that could tear apart normal human ships. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes, Reed reported. Miller looked up from his console. Commander, I've found something in the archives. Tactical data on early Vex encounters. Information we thought was lost when their homeworld was destroyed. Can it help us now? Reed asked. Maybe. According to this, Vex ships have a weakness at their engine exhaust ports. Their shields are thinnest there. Not much use without weapons, Reeves muttered. The ship's comm system activated. Commander, Ward's voice came through, sounding strange and distant. The shield is online. I can feel it. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. Vex ships charging weapons, Reeves warned. Atlas, can we hail them? Reed asked. Buy some time. Communications are functional, but inadvisable, Atlas replied. Vex protocol is to open fire on human vessels without warning. As if to confirm this, bright beams of energy shot from the lead Vex ship, striking the Thunderchild's hull. Instead of the expected explosion, the point of impact glowed blue. Energy seemed to flow across the ship's surface like water. Shield holding, Atlas reported. Energy absorption at 12% and rising. More Vex ships fired, their weapons hitting the Thunderchild from different angles. Each impact created the same flowing blue energy across the ship's hull. Dr. Ward, status, Reed called. It's incredible, Ward responded, her voice filled with wonder. I can feel their attacks. The shield is turning their energy against them. Power levels rising to 30, now 35%. Reed couldn't believe what he was seeing. The more the Vex fired, the stronger the Thunderchild became. They're moving to surround us, Reeves reported. Let them come, Reed said with growing confidence. Atlas, are any weapons systems available now? Point defense turrets can be brought online with current power levels, Atlas replied. Do it. Small turrets emerged from hidden ports along the Thunderchild's hull. They fired precise energy pulses at the closest Vex ship, targeting the area Miller had identified. The alien vessel shuddered as the blasts pierced its weakened shields. Direct hit, Reeves exclaimed. The damaged Vex ship tried to pull away, but more turrets tracked it, firing continuously at its vulnerable point. Suddenly, the alien vessel exploded in a ball of blue fire. The remaining Vex ships stopped firing and began to retreat. They're running, Miller said in disbelief. The Thunderchild was a legend for a reason, Atlas stated. And now the Vex have rediscovered why. Ward returned to the bridge, looking exhausted but exhilarated. The shield is stable. Power levels at 42% and holding. Reed looked at his small crew with pride. Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. The Vex will be back, and in greater numbers. Then we'd better be ready, Reeves said. Reed nodded. Atlas, plot a course for the nearest human outpost. It's time to bring the Thunderchild home. The Thunderchild moved slowly through space, its massive engines running at only half power. 3 days had passed since their encounter with the Vex patrol ships. With each passing hour, the ancient battleship recovered more of its strength as systems came back online and power levels increased. On the bridge, Reed studied the star chart displayed on the main screen. How much longer until we reach Epsilon Outpost? He asked. Approximately 6 hours at current speed, Atlas replied, its blue sphere hovering steadily above the command platform. The outpost's defense grid will detect us when we are 2 hours out. And they won't be happy to see us, Reeves added from his station. An unidentified ship this size will put them on high alert. Reed nodded. Epsilon Outpost was humanity's furthest military installation, a defensive platform guarding the approach to the inner colonies. Any unknown vessel approaching it would be treated as a threat. We'll need to contact them before we get too close, Reed said. Atlas, can you broadcast on current military frequencies? Yes, Commander. Communication systems are now at 76% functionality. Miller entered the bridge, carrying a small device. Over the past days, the xenobiologist had been exploring the vast ship, discovering its secrets. Commander, I think you should see this. He placed the device on a console, and a holographic display appeared above it. I found this in the science lab on Deck 9. It's a complete tactical database of Vex fleet movements from the first expansion era. Reed's eyes widened. This data was lost when the Proxima Centauri archives were destroyed. Not lost, Miller said excitedly. Just hidden here on the Thunderchild. And there's more. Look at this comparison. The hologram shifted to show two ship designs side by side, one clearly Vex, the other human. The propulsion systems are nearly identical, Ward said, joining them at the console. How is that possible? The Vex didn't develop their technology on their own, Miller explained. They reverse-engineered it from captured human ships, including systems similar to the Thunderchild's. Reed stared at the display. So all this time, we've been fighting against our own technology. More advanced versions of it, Miller nodded. But now we have the original designs. We can find their weaknesses because they're built on our own work. This information could change everything, Reed said. Atlas, how much of your weapon systems are now operational? Primary weapon arrays at 54% capacity, the AI reported. Secondary defense systems at 68%. The Aegis shield is fully functional thanks to Dr. Ward's calibrations. Reed turned to his small crew. We're bringing back more than just a legendary ship. We're bringing back the knowledge humanity needs to win this war. 2 hours from Epsilon Outpost, the Thunderchild was spotted by long-range sensors. Immediately, alarms sounded throughout the human facility. Admiral Laura Bennett stood in the outpost's command center, watching as technicians tracked the approaching vessel. What do you mean you can't identify it? She demanded of her sensor officer. Something that size should be in our database. It's not matching any known configuration. Admiral, the officer replied nervously. It's huge, at least 1 kilometer long. Vex? Bennett asked. No, ma'am. The design appears human, but older somehow. A communications officer called out. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the vessel. Put it through, Bennett ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Reed's face. Epsilon Outpost. This is Commander Marcus Reed of the United Earth Fleet. Authorization code Sierra Tango 217. Bennett stepped forward. Commander Reed, your survey ship was reported missing 3 weeks ago. My original ship was destroyed, Admiral, Reed replied. But we found something else. He stepped back, allowing the camera to show more of the Thunderchild's bridge. We're aboard the UES Thunderchild. A stunned silence fell over the command center. That's impossible, Bennett finally said. The Thunderchild was lost 2 centuries ago. Not lost, Admiral. Just waiting to be found. Request permission to dock for repairs and crew transfer. Bennett hesitated, then nodded to her officers. Prepare a security team and clear docking bay 1. If this is some kind of trick. The Thunderchild dwarfed the outpost as it approached. Workers and soldiers gathered at viewports to watch the legendary ship's arrival. Many took pictures with their personal devices, and soon news of the vessel's return spread across human communications networks. When Reed and his team stepped off the ship, they were met by Admiral Bennett and 24 armed guards. I apologize for the welcome, Bennett said, eyeing them cautiously. But you understand our concern. I do, Reed replied. If you'd like to come aboard and see for yourself, Admiral, I think you'll find it answers most of your questions. Bennett followed Reed into the Thunderchild, her security team close behind. As they walked through the massive corridors, The Admiral's expression shifted from suspicion to awe. "This is really it," she whispered. "The Thunder Child. My grandfather used to tell me stories." When they reached the bridge, Atlas greeted them, its blue sphere materializing above the command platform. "Welcome aboard, Admiral Bennett. I am Atlas, the ship's artificial intelligence." Bennett approached the hologram cautiously. "How has this ship survived all these years?" As Atlas explained the Thunder Child's history, engineers from the outpost began examining the vessel's systems. Word of the ship's return traveled quickly, and within hours, the highest levels of Earth Command knew of the discovery. "High Command is sending a battle group to escort you to Earth," Bennett told Reed later that day. "They're calling this the most significant discovery in 50 years of war." Reed nodded. "The ship is important, but what's inside it may be even more valuable." He showed her the tactical data Miller had found. The Thunder Child isn't just a weapon. It's the key to understanding Vex technology. "This could change everything," Bennett said, examining the data. "There's something else you should know," Reed added. "Atlas will only accept commands from me and my team. It's part of the ship's security protocols. It won't recognize any authority but ours." Bennett frowned. "That could be a problem. High Command will want control of the ship." "They can try," Atlas's voice came from nearby. But the Thunder Child was designed with safeguards against forcible commandeering. Captain Drake's final orders were explicit. The ship chooses its crew. Bennett looked between Reed and the AI's hologram. "This will cause complications." "Perhaps," Reed agreed. "But right now, we have a bigger problem." Long-range sensors detected a large Vex fleet massing near the New Terra colony. They're preparing for a major assault. "New Terra has minimal defenses," Bennett said gravely. "If it falls, the Vex will have a clear path to Earth." Reed looked around at the bridge of the mighty warship. "Then perhaps it's time for the Thunder Child to return to battle." "Your crew consists of 4 people," Bennett pointed out. "You can't operate a ship this size in combat." "We've managed so far," Reed replied. "But you're right. We'll need help." He turned to the Admiral. "Can you provide experienced officers?" Bennett thought for a moment, then nodded. "I can give you a skeleton crew, my best people." "Good," Reed said. "Atlas, set course for New Terra. It's time for the Vex to learn that humanity has remembered how to bite back." The Thunder Child moved through space with renewed purpose, its engines glowing bright blue against the darkness. The ancient battleship was no longer alone. 6 human warships surrounded it, forming a protective escort as they approached the New Terra colony. On the bridge, Reed sat in the captain's chair, watching the main screen with steady eyes. Around him, the bridge buzzed with activity. Admiral Bennett had provided 30 experienced officers to help operate the massive vessel, though Reed and his original team maintained key positions. "New Terra defense perimeter in range," Reeves reported from the tactical station. "Colony sensors have detected us." "Open a channel," Reed ordered. The screen changed to show the face of General Mark Wilson, commander of New Terra's defense force. His expression was grim. "Admiral Bennett informed me you were coming, Commander Reed," Wilson said. "I hope that old ship has more than just stories to offer. The Vex fleet will arrive in less than 3 hours." "How many ships?" Reed asked. 47 at last count. 3 times the size of our defense fleet." Reed nodded. "The Thunder Child will hold the center of your formation. Have your ships follow our lead." Wilson looked skeptical, but nodded. "We'll take all the help we can get, even from ghosts." When the transmission ended, Ward approached Reed. "Our power levels are at 89%. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do without a proper refit." "It will have to be enough," Reed replied. "Atlas, what's the status of the Prometheus array?" The AI's blue sphere appeared beside him. "The Prometheus array is operational at 76% capacity. However, I must remind you that this weapon system was never field-tested." "What exactly is the Prometheus array?" Bennett asked. She had insisted on joining them for the battle. Miller answered from his science station. According to the ship's database, it's a network of artificially created gravitational lenses. Theoretically, it can capture and redirect energy, even stellar energy. In simpler terms, Reed explained, it can turn the enemy's weapons against them, on a massive scale. Bennett's eyes widened. And this technology has existed for 2 centuries. It was too dangerous, Atlas said. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri, all research into such weapons was abandoned. The Thunderchild contains the only working prototype. Reed stood and addressed the bridge crew. I won't lie to you. We're outnumbered and facing an enemy that has defeated humanity at every turn for 30 years. But this ship was built to change the course of wars. Today, we'll see if it still can. 3 hours later, the Vex fleet arrived. The alien armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal predators. Their ships were sleek and deadly, arranged in attack formation around a massive central vessel, the Vex command ship. They're twice the size we expected. Wilson's voice came through the comm system. His ships formed a defensive line in front of the colony. Hold position. Reed ordered calmly. Let them come to us. The Thunderchild floated at the center of the human formation, its kilometer-long hull dwarfing even the largest human warships. For several minutes, nothing happened as the 2 fleets faced each other across the void. They're scanning us, Miller reported, paying special attention to the Thunderchild. They're trying to figure out what we are, Reed said. Suddenly, the Vex ships began to move. Their formation split into 3 attack groups, moving to surround the human fleet. They're trying to flank us, Reed warned. Let them, Reed replied. Atlas, activate the Aegis shield. Full coverage. Shield activated, Atlas confirmed. A blue glow spread across the Thunderchild's hull, gradually extending outward to encompass the nearby human ships. What are you doing? Bennett asked. Sharing our protection, Reed explained. The shield can extend to cover nearby vessels. On the battlefield, the Vex fired first. Hundreds of energy beams struck the blue shield surrounding the human ships. Instead of explosions, the points of impact glowed brightly as the shield absorbed the energy. Shield holding, Ward reported. Power levels rising with each hit. Return fire, Reed ordered. The Thunderchild's weapon ports opened, revealing rows of energy cannons that had remained hidden for centuries. They fired in perfect synchronization, each blast striking with precision at the weak points Miller had identified in the Vex ship's designs. 3 Vex vessels exploded immediately. Their shields, designed to stop modern human weapons, proved useless against the ancient technology they were based on. The Vex responded by intensifying their attack, focusing all fire on the Thunderchild. The shield glowed brighter with each impact. They recognized the ship, Miller realized. They know what it is. Power levels at 112% and rising, Ward reported with amazement. The shield is converting their energy faster than we can use it. The battle continued as the human fleet, protected by the Thunderchild's shield, began to advance. More Vex ships fell to the ancient battleship's weapons. Then the massive Vex command ship moved forward. Its front section opened to reveal what looked like a miniature sun, a weapon capable of destroying planets. They're charging their Nova cannon, Reed warned. That thing could vaporize the colony. At last, Reed said calmly, activate the Prometheus array. Activating now, the eye replied. Target locked. From ports along the Thunderchild's hull, small satellite-like devices emerge, arranging themselves in a complex pattern between the human fleet and the Vex command ship. What's happening? Bennett asked. Watch, Reed said simply. The Vex Nova cannon fired, releasing a beam of pure stellar energy that streaked toward New Terra. When it reached the Prometheus array, something extraordinary happened. The beam seemed to bend, caught by the gravitational lenses. It hung suspended for a moment, a stream of fire frozen in space. Redirecting energy, Atlas announced. The captured beam suddenly reversed direction, splitting into dozens of smaller beams that struck the Vex fleet from multiple angles. Ship after ship exploded as their own weapons' energy tore through them. The command ship took the brunt of the redirected energy. Its shields failed instantly, and its hull began to break apart. In a cascade of explosions, the massive vessel split in two, then dissolved into a field of debris. Silence fell across the battlefield as both sides processed what had just happened. "All Vex ships are retreating," Reeves reported, his voice filled with disbelief. On the main screen, they watched as the surviving alien vessels jumped away, fleeing from the power they couldn't comprehend. Reed turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them humanity just won its first major victory in 30 years. And it won't be the last." Bennett stared at him. "What happens now?" Reed looked around at the bridge of the legendary warship that had changed the course of the war in a single battle.